What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD mode video. So the patch notes for Season 8 are officially out. It's not really that sizable. It's a pretty small amount of changes, but some of them are pretty interesting. Some of them are just like, why? And there are others that are just kind of amazing in some ways. Some guns actually did get a lot of required help in this update. And hopefully soon we finally get to test it out, which is maybe in a few days actually. You know, in the past recent seasons, we've been getting a lot of different changes, almost to the point where you kind of have like some sort of gunsmith overhaul every season. But this time around, really this patch note's just meant to fix all the weapons that actually needed to be fixed, such as the Pharo, the QXR, some multipliers on the AK, and so on. So keep in mind, this might be a longer video because I'm going to go through each of them individually. So the first one is the Swordfish. So what they did is that they kind of reduced the burst delay between both the halberd, as well as the default mag. So basically, waiting to fire another burst isn't really going to take that long. So you're going to be able, well, there's going to be less punishments if you miss. Also, they did get an ADS speed buff as well as an ADS bullet spread accuracy buff. So adding more bullet spread accuracy, it is kind of weird, especially for a weapon that already has extremely good accuracy with the halberd mag. Sorry, it's so hard to fucking put those together. But yes, they added more accuracy for the gun, but I'm not really that sure if they did that mainly because they wanted to make the regular mags a little bit more usable, because to be honest, the halberd mag is more or less the bread and butter for this gun. You kind of need it in order for it to succeed. Of course, you can be extremely accurate with just the regular rounds, but the thing is that the halberd mag basically makes your gun into a complete laser. It increases your bullet spread like crazy. It gives you 100% more range. What else? It gives you an extra bullet. The headshot damage is crazy. So overall, that mag attachment is the better option to go for. I won't lie though, there is some sort of burst delay, or I guess it's a little longer because of course you have to fire one more bullet instead of 4. So that's one gripe I do have with the burst weapon. But if you're going to have more bullet spread accuracy, especially like 30% more or whatever the case may be, just for the regular rounds, I mean, it can be helpful. Another thing worth noting is that your ADS speed is going to be increased by 10%, so that's a pretty massive amount. So if you do want to use the regular rounds or have some sort of regular extended mag so you can kill people a little bit quicker, because like I said, the burst delay isn't that bad when you're just using the regular rounds. So if you're going to have all that together, you could end up putting a monolithic suppressor because, I mean, it's not really going to take a lot of aim speed away, especially if it's going to be an extremely fast weapon. And given the fact that you're adding more accuracy to it, just complements it a little bit more. So you don't always have to just rely on the halberd mag to do everything for you. Of course, knowing me, I'm going to test it out anyways in some matches to see whether or not it's worth using, or should you just stick to the halberd mag. Just stay tuned for that. Don't worry, I'll be making a video for most of these guns that are getting changed. So now we move on to the Oden. So it did get a recoil buff. Whether or not it's horizontal or vertical, I'm not really that sure. It's most likely vertical because that's what it mainly has. So adding more stability is already a good complement for the weapon. You could run more lighter attachments with it, which makes it a much more versatile weapon. As for range buff, I did look at the detailed patch notes. It's nothing really crazy. It's like the range just got like increased by like 1 meter on the first and the second range, and that's it. There's nothing else after that. But of course, the highlight change is the recoil buff. It's going to be a lot more stable, which it does kind of need. So now we move on to the AK-47, which just came out of nowhere, really. Damage multiplier buff. I know it's not really specific, but really the only one that they did change is the lower arm. Like, you know, basically the forearm all the way down to like the wrists and hands. Now it went from like 1.0 to 1.1, so you're going to be able to 3-shot a little bit better, but not really as great still. I mean, it's still, like, it still requires some skill to get a 3-shot kill with it. Just keep that in mind. So now we move on to the LK24. It has damage multiplier buff, hit flinch reduced. So in the specific patch notes, they didn't really go into detail with this one because, I don't know, they got all the actual details of it through like a video that they saw from like the Chinese tests or like the Chinese Call of Duty mobile. So they didn't get the detail of every gun, but basically the gist is that it got a damage multiplier buff. I'm not really sure where, but I'm assuming it's going to be like either the chest or the head, because you don't really get rewarded that well, especially if you shoot in the head, because it's still going to be a 4-shot kill. So they might have changed the headshot multiplier to make it so that you could actually get a 3-shot kill, just to reward you for being more accurate. As for hit flinch, a good plus for the weapon. So the next weapon that got changed is the Chicom. So there was a damage multiplier buff to it. I think this is more of a singular thing. I don't think it's more of a plural. So I think only one of the multipliers did get changed. I'm not really sure where. Maybe on the stomach to help with the 3-shot kill potential. But again, I'm not really too sure about it. That's something we're going to have to test out. I'm going to look at this one specifically. So now we move on to the PPSH, and it got yet again another horizontal recoil buff. So you guys already know in the past, I believe the PPSH has received 2 different horizontal recoil changes, because at the time when it first released, it jumped all over the place. So they made a few changes to kind of like mitigate that issue, but they never did it completely. It was usually by very small amounts. It wasn't until the second one where it kind of did disappear a little bit more than the first time. But I'm not really sure if this third one is actually going to remove it completely, or at least take out most of it. Again, I'm going to have to test this one because like these last 2 changes for the recoil just haven't really been enough. I did build it in a certain way where it actually does work a little bit. You know, I have to use a 35 round mag to increase its speed, because like all the other attachments, like the marksman barrel and like the, what do you call it, the light muzzle brake or whatever it's called to control the horizontal recoil, still really wasn't enough to, you know, mitigate the issue anyways. So I built it in a very specific way that I had to like reduce most of my ammo capacity in order to make up for lost speed. So hopefully this time around I don't need to do that, because every single change that they've made has not really been the best, at least when it comes to this weapon. So now we move on to the dreaded QXR. So we have not seen a change for this weapon for a very, very long time. I'm pretty sure you guys remember when it was extremely overpowered with enhanced bolt. Everyone was like stacking up range, and it was just a complete nightmare. But they did over nerf it to the point where it wasn't really usable. I haven't seen a person use the QXR in forever. I think the last time I got killed was like months ago by that weapon. So the only thing that they did was a damage buff. Just more specifically, they improved the damage from 22, 19, 18, 12 to basically 23, 21, 19, and 14. So if you look at the second range, where it has 19 and 21, it was increased by 2. So now it's going to be 21, meaning that you're going to be able to 5-shot in longer ranges, which was something that this gun definitely needed. As for enhanced bolts, I don't know if that's still going to be possible, because it's like at 21 right now. So I'm assuming it goes down around like 19, because the chest multiplier, I believe it was like 1.3 times, but of course the enhanced bolt reduces it down to 1.1 times. So it might not be able to 5-shot from the second range if you are using enhanced bolt. But I do recommend just using just the regular QXR without any sort of enhanced bolt in order to like maximize damage. And even with a change like this, I think the 4-shot kill potential like might actually be increased because of this change. Especially if you're shooting in the chest, where the profile, or I guess like the multiplier is like 1.3 times. If you multiply that by like 23, I mean, that could be over 25, so I'm assuming you could 4-shot a little bit better. But again, look, there's no guarantee, because there's just so many different multipliers with the QXR. You have the arms, you have the chest, you have the stomach, you have the head, and then the legs. So it's not really guaranteed that the 4-shot range is going to improve, but the 5-shot, especially with the fire rate of the QXR, it might come in handy. I'm going to be careful with this one, because I have in the past underestimated some weapon changes, and they end up becoming like the greatest weapons in the game. So this might be one of those things where I really underestimated. In fact, recently I did that with the Switchblade. I saw that it got the meters, or I guess the range got increased by like 2 meters, and I thought it wasn't going to be a huge issue. But yes, it is a huge issue, because now it has the range of a sniper. So now for the MX9, they did increase the damage, and also the profiles with damage and range have been copied into Battle Royale, so it's going to perform the same way as it does like in multiplayer and vice versa. So for the specific changes, they improved the damage from 25, 21, 18, 16 to 27, 24, 18 to 16. So it's not really much of a huge change in the grand scheme of things, but when you use range extensions and when you use large caliber, it might actually help you, especially in the second range, since it could actually improve to 25. As for headshot damage, I'm not really that sure. I'm assuming it's going to be slightly higher, but nothing really too crazy. So yeah, this is something I'm going to have to test out, but a lot of people are saying that the old MX9 is back. I'm not 100% sure on that, but maybe at this point, given that there are like a lot of good SMGs out there now, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to bring it back the way it was before. I know that might sound a little bit controversial, but given that everything is so much stronger now, I mean, the MX9, if it came out during this time, it would have been more fair. So a lot of people complained in the past about the MX9. The MX9 was a meta for quite a while, but a lot of people complained because there wasn't a lot of weapons that were able to keep up against the MX9. But now that we're at a point in time where all the weapons are more viable, you know, bringing it back to how it was before doesn't sound like a very bad idea. Especially now since we have a lot more weapons that could counter the MX9. Part of the reason why they did this is because I heard that the second legendary skin for the MX9 that came out a few seasons back is making a return, so that might have been the reason why they buffed it back to how it was before, because obviously they want to incentivize people to buy the skin. So yeah, understandable, but at the same time it's okay because there are a lot more weapons that could compete against it. So now we move on to another weird change, which is the HG40. So I got a range buff and a multiplier buff. I think they're trying to specify like one, maybe, because it does sound singular. It's not multiple different multipliers, so I'm not really sure what they changed. They probably might have changed like the chest multiplier or maybe the arms to make it a more 4-shot friendly weapon, even though it already is. Or maybe they're trying to make it more 3-shot friendly. I'm not really that sure, but yeah, it's kind of weird to make a change like this because I thought the HG40 was perfect the way it was. So they're also increasing the range by how much, I'm not really sure. They didn't specify. That's something we're going to have to find out on our own. So the potential reason as to why they might have buffed this one specifically is probably because there is a CDL champs bundle coming in with the HG40. So I'm assuming they probably made that change because of that one sole reason. But again, you know, in the leaked draws, there's nothing about the HG40. So it has to be because of that one specific bundle. So here is another interesting change. The chopper got a damage buff, range buff, and ADS accuracy buff. So overall, the chopper got buffed like across the board. Damage buff, I'm hoping it's a little bit larger, so at longer ranges you could still 4-shot, because the drop off is pretty massive. But at the same time, I always kind of understood it because it does have a pretty high fire rate. So having like a crossbar with rapid fire across the map being 4 shots would be kind of overpowered. But I'm hoping that they didn't overdo it with this one. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But the ADS accuracy buff might actually be very helpful because you do kind of need some bullet spread changes for this gun because it wasn't really that great from what I remember. So it's a pretty decent change overall. Hopefully it's gonna like not be too overpowered. But hey, for all of you guys that bought those 2 legendary chopper skins, like the Saw version and the radioactive version, you could finally make your money's worth by using it. So yeah, I will be making a video on this one specifically too, because I feel like the chopper does need some love. So now we have the KRM change. It did increase the damage, range, and hipfire buff. More specifically, it improved the damage from 25, 23, 15, 11 to 26, 25, 15, and 11. So really the first range was the only one that was, well actually no, the first and second were the only ones that were changed. Improved range from 0 to 3 meters, 3 to 7 meters, 7 to 10 meters, to 0 to 3 meters, 3 to 8 meters, and 8 to 11. So nothing really crazy, but again, I mean, they're shotguns, so 1 meter might be a lot more than we realize. As for the hipfire accuracy, they didn't specify how much they changed it by, but it's going to be a lot more tighter, so it will be a little bit easier to hipfire. So now we move on to the Jacques 12. We have a damage multiplier nerf, range nerf. So I don't know why this happened. I don't really see a lot of people using the Jacques 12, but there was some hype on Twitter about it. A lot of people were saying that this was really underrated and it was actually very overpowered. I did use it one time after the buff and it was pretty good, but I don't really think it was that great. But to have a nerf like this, maybe it was for a reason. So this is this is one where I have to kind of be objective because I don't know from personal experience how strong this thing actually was. So they might have done that for a reason. And now last but certainly not least, we have the Pharo. Oh my god, right? The Pharo finally got buffed for the first time and also nerfed. But I know a lot of you guys are probably losing your shit right now, but guys, calm down. So I have said this before, if they were ever going to buff the Pharo, they would have to decrease the range, especially when it comes to its recoil. As of right now, this SMG probably has the most recoil of like almost most guns in this game. I mean, you could kill in 3 shots out of the 4-round burst that it has, because the damage is extremely high. So if they added the recoil buff without reducing their range, it would be extremely overpowered. So that's why you're seeing a change like this. Yes, they're making it more stable, but they had to reduce the range so it could be a lot more balanced. It's kind of like a trade-off if you think about it, but hopefully it's a very good one because we don't really know by how much it controls the recoil, because it might be vertical, it might be horizontal, or it might even be both. We don't know until we actually test it out. So that's something we're going to have to see. Hopefully it becomes stable enough that's actually usable when you're ADSing instead of just hip firing. So yeah. So those are pretty much all the changes for the weapons in multiplayer, which kind of, I guess, matter more than the Battle Royale, to be honest. There were some adjustments for the Battle Royale weapons, but it's not something I'm really too interested in. I'm sure a lot of you guys care about the multiplayer aspect anyways. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe for some more COD mobile content. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.